It's that time again where I look back at the last year in gaming and pick out my 10 personal favorite experiences based on what I was able to play. The last couple years, this has been a pretty easy thing to do, with my number one pick basically settled on months in advance, but 2019 was different. Plenty of quality games released last year, and I liked more than my fair share, but if I'm being honest, only a handful really left a major impact on me. As I went through a list of every game from 2019, I realized I had completely forgotten many big high-profile releases had even come out. I don't know, last year was kinda underwhelming for me. Not to say it was bad, there just wasn't much that truly blew me away. That said, after much internal debate, I've settled on 10 games I feel comfortable shining a spotlight on. As is always the case, this list can only have games that I've played myself, and I haven't played everything, nothing in early access, no re-releases or remasters, and of course, this is all just my opinion, and you're free to disagree. I'm positive plenty of you will. Let's get started.
Whoa.
While I didn't love it on the same level as many others, I very much enjoyed my time with A Plague Tale: Innocence. I'd best describe it as a jack-of-all-trades, but master of none. The stealth and puzzle solutions are enjoyable, if pretty simplistic. The story and characters are fine, but not exceptional. And the presentation is beautifully striking in some areas, and kinda lacking in others. But the experience of guiding two siblings through the bleak, cruel, disease-ravaged countryside of 14th century France is memorable, especially the frequent sequences avoiding massive swarms of ravenous plague rats. Moving through the flood of rodents with only the flicker of a torch keeping you safe is always tense, and how they go from being purely an obstacle to avoid to a tool you can unleash on your foes keeps the dynamic interesting. And the music is absolutely fantastic. Certainly worth a play.
Whoa.
Some fans of the half-human, half-demon might not like hearing this, but I've never understood the hate for the 2013 DMC reboot. It was a quality game that stood on its own, and I think much of the ire it received was just a natural aversion to change. That being said, Devil May Cry 5 blows it out of the water. The awesome, bombastic, over-the-top stupidity is cranked to 11 in all the right ways, delivering exactly what series faithful wanted. Offering 3 different characters to play as, each of which handle differently with styles all their own, there's plenty of unique combo-stringing ass-kicking to be had. Even if I'm not exactly the best at it. I personally think V isn't anywhere near as fun to play as Dante or Nero, but regardless, I had a blast slicing, dicing, and shooting my way through the spawns of hell. Devils may cry, but demons definitely bleed.
Whoa.
Ubisoft has a strict template for the majority of their games. I don't think anyone would argue with me on that. Open-world, loot-based live services are their bread and butter these days, and while this can make their catalog blend together and seem stale, when they do it right, they do it right. The Division 2 builds on what the already fun first game established, adding more variety and gameplay improvements to make battling the various militia groups a consistently engaging undertaking. The shooting and looting are satisfying in equal measure, and there's a whole bunch to see and do whether you're solo or palling around with fellow agents. Roadmaps rarely interest me, so I haven't returned to the game since its launch month, but I spent 40 hours taking back DC and loved my time doing so. Plus, The Division 2 is a masterpiece compared to the other military-themed open-world shooter Ubisoft put out in 2019.
Whoa.
Resident Evil 2. Yes, I know I made a 30-minute long video where I mostly complained about things the remake did that were, in my opinion, inferior to the original, and I understand why it might seem weird to have this game on an end-of-the-year top 10. But, like I also said in that video, the Resident Evil 2 remake is a quality product with plenty to like about it that's worth full price. In terms of presentation and control, it's a great modernization of the PS1 classic. Exploring the Raccoon City Police Department is tense, and its combination of frantic action and engaging puzzles make it a compelling adventure. I have my issues with RE2 to be sure, primarily how half-assed the scenario stuff was done, and you can check out my video on the subject if you want further details or just want to call me an idiot, plenty of people already have. But taken on its own merits, as a video game, Capcom made something pretty darn good. And hey, I'm looking forward to the RE3 remake. Just, don't leave out the branching Nemesis paths.
Whoa.
Disco Elysium came out of nowhere and was quickly met with heaps of glowing praise. Near-perfect scores from numerous outlets, several awards, and many people saying it would change the very landscape of the RPG genre. I think these people are being pretty hyperbolic, but I also did appreciate my time as an amnesiac detective enough to put it on this list. Disco Elysium is the very definition of a slow burn, relying entirely on exploration and dialogue. Lots and lots and lots of dialogue. Basically, if this is the first thing that springs to mind when you hear the term RPG, then this game might not be for you. Thankfully, the conversations are engaging thanks to good writing and the variety of responses you can give. How you spend skill points determines what you can potentially say and do, both to the person in front of you as well as in your own mind, and failure is often as interesting as succeeding. While games with similar systems would have you see only improvement as you dump points into your favorite attributes, Disco discourages this extreme. It might seem like a good idea to have strong encyclopedic knowledge, for example, but invest too heavily and you might find your brain filled with useless factoids in the middle of an interrogation. I wish these decisions had more of an impact on the narrative, as it plays out pretty much the same no matter what, but deciding how your character reacts to things and in turn seeing how others react to him is entertaining enough to carry you through. Best played in multiple small sessions with a cup of coffee or tea by your side, it's an intriguing and often bizarre journey. If you're a fan of old-school shooters from the 90s, the last few years have probably made you very happy. If you were into Quake, then you have Dusk from last year. If you like Duke Nukem, then Ion Fury is right up your alley. And if you liked Heretic or Hexen, then Amid Evil is the game for you. Battling your way across a varied collection of worlds, each with unique themes and enemies to fight, Amid Evil is pure, fast-paced fun where every level is expertly designed and peppered with secrets to uncover. Each of its 7 weapons are satisfying to unleash on your foes, and all remain useful throughout the entire game, especially when you build up enough energy to unleash their devastating alt-fires. If you like circle strafing, you're missing out if you haven't given Amid Evil a look. And any game that features a staff that shoots literal planets is doing at least one thing very right.
Whoa.
This will almost certainly be a contentious pick, so allow me to say something to everyone up front. If you didn't want to purchase Borderlands 3 because of its Epic Store exclusivity, I totally get it. If you didn't want to purchase Borderlands 3 because of the shady actions of 2K Games and Take-Two, that's understandable. If you didn't want to purchase Borderlands 3 because you didn't want your money going to the clown prince of medieval times known as Randy Pitchford, you are 100% justified. But the game itself is incredibly fun! The core addictive loop of shooting and looting with wacky weaponry is intact with minor but smart quality of life improvements that make the whole thing play even better than its series predecessors. The story isn't very good, and the constant failed attempts at humor will make you want to put a Jacobs brand gun in your mouth, or at least turn down the in-game voices, but it would be disingenuous of me to say I didn't have a merry old time gunning down psychos, skags, and various badasses across the galaxy. And on a personal note, the excellent co-op implementation gave my longtime buddy Dan and I something to play together after a long period of separation due to our conflicting schedules. So, if for no other reason, Borderlands 3 has my gratitude for that.
Whoa.
Another pick destined to be scoffed at by some people, so once again, let me extend an olive branch. Death Stranding is a game that I understand the hate for. If you think it's boring or tedious and gave up on it after a handful of hours, I don't blame you. In my opinion, it takes upwards of 8 hours before it truly comes into its own, which is definitely a problem, and the writing isn't exactly what I'd call good. It's memorable because of how bizarre it is, but with each extended scene of exposition, it's clear Kojima is so far up his own ass, it's a wonder he's not constantly bumping into walls. But even with its problems, I couldn't put the game down. Its unique ideas and mechanics kept me intrigued, and while I'm not going to tell you delivering packages is the most exciting experience you'll have all year, there's a consistent satisfaction to overcoming the terrain and reaching your destinations time and time again. What really makes Death Stranding stick with me, though, are the excellent asynchronous social features. Knowing that every ladder, climbing rope, zipline, whatever I came across was placed there by another player, and knowing that every one of those objects I put down was in turn helping somebody else, led to this incredible sense of unspoken teamwork and camaraderie that never went away. Coming out of a safe house to see that pieces of road I had taken the time to build for myself had turned into a miles-long freeway thanks to the contributions of other unseen players was one of my favorite gaming moments last year. Kojima made a game that isn't for everyone, but if you can get into it, it sticks with you, and I look forward to seeing what other nonsensical bullshit he has in store for us next.
Whoa.
Over the last few years, I've come to accept something about myself. I am a horrible Nintendo fan. Sure, I've played some Marios and some Zeldas, but there are many major franchises made by the Big N that I've never touched. Metroid completely passed me by, I've never owed Tom Nook money in Animal Crossing, and at no time did I command troops on the battlefield of a Fire Emblem. Until now. Fire Emblem Three Houses is my introduction to the series, and if this entry is any indication, I've clearly been missing out. Engaging, refined, turn-based combat where every sword swung or arrow loosed feels meaningful, and a cast of likable characters I was interested in getting to know more about. I only played through the game once leading the Black Eagles, but after speaking with a friend, I know there's easily another 2 games worth of content to see if I ever choose to start my semester over with the other houses. Maybe I'll even turn on permadeath next time. Hopefully there will come a time where I'll actually catch up on all the other Nintendo series I've missed, but as of 2019, I can say I'm officially a fan of Fire Emblem.
Whoa.
Anthem is nowhere near this list, are you kidding me? If my number 1 pick is surprising to you, don't worry, it was surprising to me too. Remnant from the Ashes was not a game I expected to love as much as I did. It came out without much fanfare, and if not for various YouTubers I watch making videos about it, there's a good chance I never would have heard about it at all. But this third-person shooter spin on the Souls formula really pulled me in once I gave it a try for myself, and as I sat here thinking of my favorite games of 2019, Remnant kept slowly making its way further and further down my list as I recalled how gratifying the experience was. Tight, impactful, hard-hitting combat offers a significant challenge without ever feeling unfair. In fact, in this genre of games, Remnant is forgiving in many ways, such as having checkpoints immediately before boss encounters, so dying never feels like a massive step backwards. There's also a high degree of replayability thanks to randomized level layouts and a good variety of unique gear sets and weaponry, not all of which can be found in 1 or even 2 playthroughs. And this is all just from playing solo, as I didn't even touch the available co-op option. It's one of the few games I played last year that I started a second run of based solely on how much fun I was having with the core combat, and given how rarely I do that nowadays, that itself should speak volumes. I don't expect to see this game on many top 10 lists, let alone in the number 1 spot, but as far as me and my personal standards are concerned, Remnant from the Ashes is my favorite game of 2019. And those are my top 10 games of 2019. I'm sorry that this video kind of came out late. I got a VR headset for Christmas and discovered that VR is really fucking cool. So every time I would sit down to do some work, I would see this out of the corner of my eye and inevitably So I'm just gonna sit in front of the camera and talk for a few minutes about the channel in general. If you were just here for the top 10, that part's over now. Feel free to leave. Thanks for making it this far into the video, and let me know what your favorite game of 2019 was down in the comments below. But for the rest of you that wanna stick around, I'm mainly gonna look at the growth of the channel over 2019, throw out some numbers, not for the purposes of bragging. I don't think my numbers are particularly impressive, especially if you stack them up against a bunch of other channels, but more for the purposes of keeping a record, so around this time next year, I can look back and see where I was versus where I am now. And I don't know if I'll make this an annual thing, but I thought it would be interesting to do, at least for this year. So when I made my Game of the Year video last year, I had around 25,000 subscribers, and when I upload this, I'll have about 67,000. So that's a growth of about 42,000 new subscribers through 2019. Thanks for deciding to stick around. I apologize in advance for the disappointment. In terms of views, the channel as a whole got 3.2 million views over the course of 2019. That includes every video that I've ever put out, not just the stuff from this year, although that was the bulk of it. And I'm sure a good amount of that is from people falling asleep watching my longer videos. But a view's a view. And back in June, I was featured as one of YouTube's creators on the rise, which basically meant my channel and some of my videos were in the trending tab for like a week, which didn't really do anything to help my channel. It didn't move the needle at all in terms of growth. The most it did was it got my most recent video at the time, which was my Oni review, some extra views, which is cool. But that also meant more people got to hear me say I thought Ghost in the Shell was boring, so double-edged sword. Next, I want to look at some notable videos that I put out in 2019. Throughout the entirety of the year, I put out a grand total, a staggering 8 whole new videos because I am really good at managing my time properly. But hopefully the quality of the content makes up for the lack of quantity. I mean, I'd be the last to know, so please let me know if those 2-month gaps between content is worth the wait. By far, my most successful video on the channel was reviewing every Hitman, which isn't much of a surprise. Those long-form entire series overview videos tend to do really, really well. I mean, I've only done 2 of them, but I'm noticing a pattern regardless. And that might lead some of you to wonder why I don't just do those type of videos all the time. Why am I not releasing or reviewing every so-and-so every month? And it's because those videos are such a pain to put together. It's so much footage to capture, dozens of hours of gameplay, and then I gotta write a 20-page plus script and edit it all. It's just such a massive effort, and I can't do that. I just can't do that on a super regular basis. But I do plan to do more as time goes on, because clearly all of that time and energy is worth it. The most contentious video I put out this year was, to no one's shock, Resident Evil 2, what the original did better. And people still to this day think that I made that video just to stir the pot, just for drama, but that really wasn't the case. Yes, I decided to focus on the negatives because I had my issues with the remake and how it changed things from the original in ways that I don't think are an improvement. And when I went and looked at other reviews at the time, it was all just, this game is amazing, it's a masterpiece, it blows the original out of the water, and I just wanted to add like a different perspective in there. If I could go back, I would like to tweak a couple things, specifically, like, there are a few minor facts I got wrong, like I talk about how the pistols, those special edition, like Chris and Wesker pistols, how they're useless, but that was based on like 5 minutes of testing I did, and based on what I've seen, those weapons, like, their advantages aren't really immediately apparent. You have to like play for a long period of time, and then you'll see how much better they are. So I would correct those, and I would like to explain maybe some arguments better, because I'm not the greatest at articulating my points. But generally, I do stand by that video, even though people are going to bring it up years from now of why you shouldn't listen to my opinion. And finally, the most surprising success that I had on the channel in 2019 was Newgrounds Flash games. Now, people know what Newgrounds is. It's not some obscure thing. But I don't know, I just never expected a video covering a bunch of 10-minute Flash games to get 500,000 views. Like, I was expecting it to do Oni numbers or Silent Hill numbers. You know, good views for a channel of my size, but not that well. And I don't know what caused it. Like, I guess I just underestimated how many people would know about Newgrounds and want to see a video. Like, nostalgia's a powerful thing, I guess. And also because that video was really something I thought of and then just did. Like, usually when I make a video, it's something I think of months in advance. And I'm not saying I'm sitting there meticulously planning videos out for months on end. It's just, I have an idea and it stirs for months and months, and then I finally sit down and start executing it. But with Newgrounds, I think someone mentioned Newgrounds one day, and I was like, man, I remember Newgrounds, let's go to the site. Hey, look, Flash games. I could record these easily. Let's make a video out of this. Like, it was just a flash in the pan. And it worked. It worked out, and that was cool. So maybe I should try to have more impulsive ideas, I guess, is the lesson. overall, I'm happy with the growth that the Critical Nobody channel has had in 2019. It would probably be more if I could, more consistently crank out actual content, but for now, I'm good with where I am, and maybe by this time next year, I'll have cracked 100,000 subscribers. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be crazy? You get one of those play buttons to throw in a corner and forget about. Oh, it'd be so cool. I've already got some video ideas swirling around in my head. You'll probably see like 10% of them before the year is out because I am the worst procrastinator in the world. But whether you have been with me since day one or you've just subscribed in the last week, thank you for deciding to stick around. I hope that I'm entertaining enough to be worthy of your time. Thanks for watching, and here's to a good 2020. Also, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.